Hey everyone, I thought it was time I did another video. And I just want to say that, like everybody else, just because I'm a life coach and a therapist and various knows what else, it doesn't mean that suddenly I'm there or there's no problems or anything negative or challenging going on with me. I can say that this last 6 weeks has been a massive roller coaster, with all kinds of areas, everything from financial to health concerns to wondering about what's going to happen to the economy and everything else. So I just want to let you know that it's not that I'm kind of preaching or coming from a place of I know everything or that I'm somehow above everything that's going on. And what I want to do is just kind of let you know how I am getting through this, because I feel like when you really understand some of these principles that I use literally from moment to moment, that things just do get a lot easier. So something else I want to make you aware of is that, as we know, it's very unusual to be forced to stay at home. And whether you're with your family or whether you're on your own like me, that is a form of solitude, right? That is a form of, it's a very comfortable prison cell, but it's a little bit like you are kind of being, made to stay indoors and not locked up, but in lockdown. So some very interesting things happen to the body and the human psyche when they're under those conditions. And the main thing there is that it brings up stuff, because your body kind of goes into a kind of contemplating state, if you like. It's like first of all, we're being forced to slow down, and our routines go out the window, and we are given lots of time. And what we do when we have lots of time is we think, but also our bodies naturally are looking for ways to release stress and tension. And when we're kind of we're in our homes, which is where we're most comfortable, our body goes, well, this is probably a good time to let some of that tension and stress out. And when that all kind of comes at once with everything else, it can be really challenging for someone because there's nowhere to go. But also, I want you to be aware of this, that a lot of the emotions and the energy that you're feeling isn't yours. What do I mean by that? So basically, I've said this many times, but I'll say it again. And this is not me kind of trying to get you to believe in something. We are electromagnetic beings, okay? We are made up of vibration. We are essentially energy. And everything around us is made of the same stuff. If you get a microscope and you go down and down and down and zoom, 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 you will find that there is no difference between anything. It's all made of the same stuff, the quantum soup, whatever you want to call it. And that means that we are all connected. And it means that we're all sending out a signal. And that collective signal, or that collective energy field, is something that we're swimming in, we're connected to. So if the collective energy field is full of fear and uncertainty and stress, we're going to feel it. And a lot of the time, we obviously have a personal experience here, so we are going, oh, why do I feel like that? There must be something going on. And one of the most dangerous words in the dictionary is why, especially when you're feeling afraid or down or negative in any way, because it gets you all, it starts the interpreter function in your mind to start stacking up evidence of reasons why you should feel bad. So what I want to reassure you of, that a lot of the time it isn't yours, especially if there's no reason for you to be down, depressed or fearful, and then suddenly you feel a lot of fear, chances are it's not your stuff. It's not your fear. So there is that. So what do I do about it? What are these magical steps that I do? There's nothing magical about it, but there's something else I want you to be aware of. What is the first thing that we do when we feel an emotion that we don't like, or that we label as negative? We tense up, okay? We push it away. We don't like it. We don't want to feel it. And what's the word that summarizes what that process is? It's resistance, okay? We resist what we don't want, and we constrict and we tighten up. Now, the problem with that is that what you resist is going to persist. Or if you think of it another way in terms of a metaphor, if you have pressure that needs to be released and you're pushing it back down, or you're not allowing it to be released, it's building up. That pressure is building up. And the trouble with pressure that builds up is there's only so much pressure that we can stand before it comes out. And if you don't let it out gradually, then it's going to come out all at once and you're going to be in some kind of crisis. This is where panic attacks come from. It's when we don't listen to our bodies and we keep driving it and we keep overthinking it and we keep basically pushing and pushing until your body goes, oh my God, I've got to release all of this right here, right now. And sometimes it can happen again when we're not particularly stressed, but it's built up for a long period of time. You're having a moment where you feel okay and everything's fine, and then out of nowhere, because the body goes, oh, this is probably a good time to get rid of that stress and tension, waff, it comes up. And then of course we're going, why is this happening to me? And that's why panic attacks are so frightening. The truth is, once you understand what they are, how they're created and where they come from, if you're looking after yourself and you know what to do, it should never happen again, because you'll never let it get to that point. So again, coming back to these steps, the first step is surrender or acceptance. What do I mean by acceptance? I mean literally in this moment, however you feel, whatever your circumstances are, whatever is happening around you, it's about fully accepting it and being with it. And most people can't do that. Most people would rather do anything but that. If you are afraid, your body's natural instinct is to run away or to freeze up or to fight. Not many people can just sit there and feel it and allow it and this is the wonderful thing. If you can do that and you can allow that energy and that pressure to be released, and you can just be kind to yourself and literally just say, okay, you're trying to tell me something. This could be really old. This could be a childhood fear. This could be some trauma that's coming up because of a trigger that's happened out here. And everyone's immediate reaction is, I've got to get away from that. And it's the worst thing you can do, because it just keeps coming back and coming back. But if you can sit with it and accept it and say, okay. And again, it doesn't mean you have to like your circumstances. It doesn't mean you have to enjoy that feeling. It doesn't mean that if someone's doing something to annoy you, that it's okay and it's right. It's just saying that, accepting that it's a fact. It's happening. I choose it. Not as in I want it, but I say it is happening, so I choose to allow myself to experience it in this moment now without any resistance. And if you do that, you'll notice something happens very quickly when you get good at this. You get instant peace. It's not to say that there still isn't action to be taken to change your situation or your circumstances, but in that moment, you are absolutely at peace. Because what you're saying is, I'm not going to allow this to have power over me. And you might say, well, it's very easy for you to say that, but what if I'm sick? Or what if I'm, in a really traumatic situation? Again, I'm not saying that it's okay that you have to live with that and that you can't do anything to improve your circumstances. But the reason that people get sick, or at least get worse, is because they're resisting the fact that they are sick. But let me ask you a question. Are you sick or aren't you sick? I am sick. And when you actually resist something and you get really stressed out, what does that do? It lowers your immune system. Because when you're in that part of your brain, the three systems that shut off are your reproductive, your digestive, and your immune system. Which is why you shouldn't watch the news, because it's designed to freak you out, to keep your system low, spread virus, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, this is about any situation. So by accepting it and saying, yes, this is where I'm at, and then allowing yourself to feel that or be with that and accept that in this moment, you're in peace. And when you're in peace, that's when you can do something about it. That's when you actually, because think about it, then you can take action from a place of peace. without resistance. Because when you resist something, it persists. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is also to think of things as being for your own benefit. It's actually designed to help you, to wake up, to heal. Everything that you go through on some level is a lesson. It helps you to learn. There is an intelligence in the universe. The quantum field is benevolent. It's actually, we've now worked out that it's actually stacked in our favor. It wants to help us. Everything that happens to you on some level, and don't take my word for it, look back in your life, do some kind of catalogue of all of the events leading up to this moment. I can certainly see that in certain moments where at the time I was absolutely gutted with the way a decision went, or the fact that something didn't happen that I wanted it to. But this is my point. We have an ego, and that ego goes, I want that. And I want it to be exactly like this. And to get that, I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to force my way. That's a very kind of 21st century, you know, you've got to work really hard, you've got to like force it, you've got to take those steps, you've got to be planning. And that's quite, you know, from a coach's point of view, yeah, there is a lot of training for people to say you can go at things that way. But I'm saying that there's another possibility here. I'm saying that actually, when you are so blinkered and fixated on you have to have this and you have to get there exactly this way, you are potentially, knowing that everything is designed to try and help you get that once you've decided you want it, you could be missing out on so many opportunities because it's got to be like this. And actually, you're making it harder for yourself a lot. It's probably more about working smart than working hard. It's like when someone practices a musical instrument, they usually play the songs that they're familiar with, that they're good at, that they know, and they don't practice the things that are difficult or technical because it's not as fun, but then they wonder why they actually hit a ceiling and they don't get any better at their instrument. So trust, have some faith. Not even in yourself, just because, again, look back at your life and see all of those crossroads where things didn't go your way, or you had a breakup, and at that time, or whatever it was, you were in bits. You were like, oh my God, my world's over. This is so terrible. I wanted it to be like this. It's not like that. How can I go on? 10 years later, you look back and you're like, I'm so glad that relationship didn't work out. I'm so glad I didn't get into that college, or I would never have met this person if I'd done that. And you can track it back, and just about every time things work out for the best. But we don't trust. We always have to hang on so tight. And when you hang on really tight, you're restricting. You're getting in the way of yourself, of the quantum field, of whatever you can call it, God, you can call it whatever. There is people trying to help you. We're trying to get you to where you want to get to. But when you have so fixed ideas and desires and everything like that, a lot of the time we don't know what's good for us, or we just go with what's safe or familiar. So just have a little bit of faith that actually things generally work out okay. And the last thing is, once you're doing those two things, it's kind of just allowing things to unfold naturally, again, rather than trying to force everything. Because everything seems to be, I'm discovering this, everything seems to be counterintuitive. As in, we're told that in order to get what we want, we have to be a certain way. And actually, I find that the more relaxed you are, and the more you actually let things flow. You've heard of it, like flow states, going with the flow, being in a state of flow. That's when you're kind of allowing those opportunities to come. And those opportunities come when you are in a state, and you'll notice this, when you're doing what you love, and you're fully in touch, and you're passionate about what you do, and you get excited about your work, it's really contagious. It kind of draws things to you. And you can talk about the law of attraction, it's all part of it, but there's a science behind that. When you're in a state of joy and excitement and you're following your bliss and all the rest of it, the opportunities just seem to come. When you don't like your work and everything's a struggle, and you hate going into the office, and you don't want to be doing that, and you don't like that conversation, you don't believe in what you're doing, life just suddenly slows down and gets sluggish and gets hard and gets stressful. And there's a reason for that. Again, it's all energy related, and it's also belief related. So it's about following that, getting yourself in the zone and following that excitement, that passion. So, yeah, I mean, I think you've got to kind of try it in order to really get that this is a very healthy way of being. But, you know, I'll give you an example, right? So, my thing, or one of my biggest crutches or things that I'm have an ongoing thing is a health related thing. Because there was a lot of cancer in my family. I lost my mother, and then the year after I lost my grandmother to cancer, different kinds of cancer. And I think to a 7-year-old boy, that was very traumatic. And what that's created in me is a fear of death and a fear of sickness, especially. So the moment that I get any kind of twinge or pain or something that doesn't feel right, I'm super observant and just paranoid about getting some kind of terminal disease. And so my way of dealing with that is to be really, I used to be, is really controlling, right? I've got to control my diet. I've got to have every supplement under the sun. I've got to learn all about health and books and nutrition and this and that. I mean, and all of that's been great. Like, I've learned so much. I've got so many tools and everything else. But any strength taken to an extreme becomes a weakness. And again, if your way of coping with the fear that comes up is to say, oh, I don't want that, shove that away, and then go and grab your supplements and your pills and kind of go to this, and it's not dealing with it, and it's irrational. It's not a healthy way to be. It's like, I've got to fix this, I've got to sort this, I've got to run away from that feeling. And what sometimes when things, you get put under massive amounts of pressure, eventually there's nowhere to run to. And at some point, you've got to face it. You've got to sit there and you've got to say, what's really going on here? And the moment that I did that, and I was able to actually look at, where is this pattern? It's a pattern, it's a behavior, it's a coping mechanism. And again, it worked. I have all these skills, I have all this knowledge, I have all this experience. But the fear has never gone away because I've never looked at it. I've never dared to look at it. I've never wanted to look at it. I've always wanted to try and solve it out here with physical, practical things and kind of think my way out of it. But if you're pushing that down and the pressure cooker builds up, again, it's just a reoccurrence. I can't think of how many different kinds of conditions and stomach issues and all kinds of stuff that have kind of come up with the years. Because this is the irony, when you push that down, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're making yourself sick. So the thing you're afraid of, you're causing it. It's got nothing to do with... So you start to get the picture. I'm not going to start rabbiting on about this, but my point is quite simple. You've got to face your fears or face the things that you're not dealing with. And the way that you do that is those 3 steps. First of all, when that feeling comes up or that thing that you're avoiding, you've got to accept it. You've got to sit there, you've got to be with it. You've got to trust that actually this is being shown to you again and again on repeat because you're not learning the lesson, you're not dealing with it. And you know that if you do, then basically you're going to break that cycle and you're not going to need it anymore. And also trusting that this is all designed for your benefit, to wake you up, to make you a better person, a stronger person. And then lastly, just allow things. Know what you want, nothing wrong with that, stick a flag in the sand. But then it's not about you going, I've got to work really hard towards this and it's got to be this specific path. Just be a little bit fluid with that and just trust and just look for the opportunities as they get presented to you. Be flexible, flow with it, fluid. And you'll notice that actually it's more fun getting to that. And you may get sidetracked and then find something even better than that. So set some goals, but just be a bit more working smart rather than hard. And, you know, I think the more peaceful you are, the more you're following your joy and your excitement from moment to moment rather than forcing yourself and saying, I should be doing this, or I need to do that, and being very close-minded with those I'm going to say meta model language violations, which no one's going to know much about, but it's all part of the NLP stuff. All I would say is the more flexible you are, the more you follow that joy and that passion, the more you're suddenly going to transform your life. And when things come up that you have been avoiding, it's time to sit with them. And I'll tell you something amazing that happens. If you do sit with it and you do feel it and you allow it to flow through you, suddenly it goes away forever. It's a permanent release because you're not pushing it down anymore. And once that's released, it's gone. You're free. So you don't need all these coping mechanisms and strategies anymore to try and save you, because there's nothing to save you from. So I hope that's been helpful and I've given you a lot to think about. If you need any further support, get in touch. Have a wonderful day.